Welcome to Hangout Cafe on Zoom this time. Um, I know we've gone through a bit. We actually answered a few questions, but because of the internet, the echo, we are now on Zoom, and I think this is so much better, clearer too. Ah, thank God. Thank you for joining us. So, what was the last question we're dealing with? It was
Expectations.
expectations. Did we finish? I don't think we finished that, answering that.
Yeah,
I think
Doc was.
Doc was I answered I spoke regarding the aspect of sex, and then Doc was speaking from another aspect about
Yes,
expect.
are you okay? Do you want to finish what you were saying,
Do
Doc?
you mind repeating the question, please?
Okay. Let's see. What I think it was something along the lines of what's something you wish I did or your wife did more often, but you've been too nervous to ask?
So I don't think it would be too nervous to ask as much as, yeah, but I think that men generally would like a lot more encouragement from their spouses.
Yeah.
It would seem like because of the expectations, and absolutely nothing wrong with a woman's expectations from the husband and father and all that. But it would seem like Uju was saying last week, that the focus is more on the expectations rather than the encouraging words that would stimulate those expectations. We've all heard stories of how, and sometimes we might laugh about it, but the truth is, it's true, where the more you encourage, the more you
Praise.
uh, praise. I was trying not to use the word, but the more you praise your husband, the truth is, the more he wants to be there for you and do all those things. But it would seem like there's more of uh, complaints
Okay.
than encouragement. That's my opinion.
Okay.
And oftentimes that tends to just knock the man backwards, but more than encouraging you forward.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone else wants to chip in before we move on to the next question?
Yeah, I just hammering a bit on what Doc said about the praise. I can't. I always remember this analogy when I left the UK to go back to Nigeria, and I remember getting there, and we used to watch all these Yoruba plays, which we didn't really understand very that much at the time. But one thing that really caught my attention was whenever they went into the King's Palace. And you'd see all these guys playing the drums and all that, and hailing the king and all that stuff. And by the time they finished, the king would do anything for them and all that. And I think so many times. I always, for me, I think that as a lady, you can get your chap to do anything, almost anything.
Yeah.
And that's why I always say that it's always important to marry the right person, because if the woman uses those techniques well, you can do anything, even bring your husband out of the will of God. But what it is that, with praise, you know, continuous praise, even in the midst of time, even in times when it looks like praising for what? What have you done that I'm praising you? Did you understand? Even at those times, even though those times even more than others,
Yeah.
it's so important. I think that's what the big thing is most of the time, and I think also with guys, there's also the part where, as someone said, more sex. But I don't think it's more sex really. I think it's also where you're in a place where, you know spontaneity, I don't know, just different things that cross your mind, like, can we, I don't know, it can be very, this part can be very personal and all that, where you're thinking about, oh, what can we do here and all that. And it's not even so many times it's the lady that initiates the sex and all that. Sometimes it's the guy. Sometimes it's that part where it's like, oh, I'm too tired at the time when the guy is not. So many things go on where it's almost like, but I don't think sex is that important. And I agree with Ade on that. It's not actually it's not that important. I think just the fact that if you can get your husband in a place where his head is swollen,
Make his head swell.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And just to balance it out, I mean, it works for both sides, both
Yeah,
the wives and the husband. So it's not just us. Women, our wives too, need to be appreciated. They need to be loved. They need to be respected as well. So the fact that we are saying we need to be respected, it's not a one-sided equation. It
Mm,
works both ways.
okay. Thank you very much. Good, good, good. Another playful question. What's one thing that women do that makes no sense to you?
one thing.
One thing. Okay. I mean, there
Ah,
are loads from
where do we
Akin's
start?
response, like one thing, okay. There are plenty.
Ah, I mean, no, I actually have been delivered because it used to drive me crazy. And I read a book, or actually, I didn't read a book. It was somebody else that advised me what was going on. Um, actually, they said when men are thinking, we tend to think internally. We don't voice our thinking, so we tend to think, um, you know. And then when the thought process is complete, then
Yeah.
we talk. Fuller will just be muttering. I know sometimes I don't even know what she's saying. And what the guy now said to me, sorry, what this person said to me was that the thought, I may be wrong. You guys, I mean, I may be wrong, but this is what he told me. He said when women are thinking, they think aloud. So while they're talking their thoughts. They're trying to gather their thoughts together. So the
Okay.
fact that you are hearing them say these things and you're like, what's she talking about? To them, they actually, I may be wrong. So it doesn't wind me up. But earlier in our marriage, it used to drive me crazy. Like, what's she saying? What exactly is she saying? And then you ask her and say, what were you talking about? She said, oh, I was just thinking. Thinking? When men think, we think, we don't make a sound. Or we write it down. So that's mine. That's my own
I think, I think it's less than annoy, more amuse. Someone like David C, I could be talking to David C, she can take multitasking to another level. So I can be talking to David C about something, and then she started talking about something else, and I'm still here. And this even gets my daughters too. So we're like, Mommy, are we still talking about this? So no, I'm now here. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, we didn't know you had moved on, and then we now come back to that place again. So I think at times there's that there's there's a way where she for Debussy she just changes modes. So one second she's like this, then bang, then boom. So Debussy is, I mean, she's a lovely person to be with. She's like these cartoon characters that, 1 second they're here and they're smiling, and second I'm like, okay, where are we? So to catch up alone, and all that. But yeah,
your
I
wife
think,
said, really?
man,
Like, oh,
she good. You see, she does it so much that even it's really it's when you bring the girls in and they're like, yeah, mom, that's what you do.
Yeah,
okay.
so I think it was Morenike that put a comment, and when Ade was speaking, said it's the opposite
Yeah.
in their home.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to, so it's a good question, but just to understand that it'll be different things in different homes
Very personal.
and different relationships. And it's
So what's your own?
principally in this instance, I think it's more a personality thing, and we'll get varied personalities in our home. So my response is not necessarily a general women's thing because, like I said, we're all different. But I think the bit that does my head in is if you're upset about something, say you're upset about something, so I know you're upset about something and we can do something about it. But that whole keeping quiet and, yeah, I'm trying to figure out, okay, what's gone wrong. And then to make matters worse, is there a problem? No, there's no problem.
No,
Then, yeah,
it's okay.
it's.
It's fine.
No, sis, don't forget before you say anything. And then when they finally say, they say, you should have known what the issue is. That's the one. I'm not a mind reader.
Somebody said I thought it was only me, but
Uh, welcome to the club.
Some of us are talented in this. Oh my goodness. No, because sometimes we wish you could just pick up these things. I mean, if you do something, can't you tell when you do something wrong?
No,
You,
but we're not magicians. And I think when the ladies were speaking last week, I'm
yes,
not sure whether it was Yamo that was emphasizing about communication and then connection. And
yeah.
it's so true. I think rather than put the weight of interpretation on the
What
man,
about the
just
spirit of discernment instead?
no. Suppose the spirit doesn't come on you at that point in time. It's easier to just say, well, this is the problem. This is what you've done wrong. And then allow me to then make amends. But that prolonged, it can be quite
The weight of interpretation.
tasky, yes.
Yeah.
Someone said you're a doctor of women by now. Do you, oh, in fact, I remember this thing that happened. I can't remember if I was pregnant with Tuba or Timmy, and I was in labor. And he said to me that you can't be in that much pain. I was like, how can you tell? You're not, he said, my patients have told me. That day, I almost lost it. How? You've never been pregnant, and you have the audacity to tell me that it's not that painful. Anyway, whoever is that, please mute.
But Sister okay, that last thing you just said, it nails it on the head, as Doc said earlier, why we're different. Because just as you're saying, where Doc's not a woman and he's not going to understand, it's the same way that you're not a man. So some of the things that we do, you're never going to understand why we do
True.
it. So
True.
yeah.
That's why we're having this discussion so that
Exactly.
we can try to better understand each other.
Yeah, I
Okay.
guess it's just important not to assume.
Not to
Yeah.
assume, yes.
Rather than assume, I mean, I find myself in that position sometimes too, where it's almost like, this is like, Akin, what's going on in your head? And I'm like, don't worry, when it's there, I'll let you know. But she's like, I need to know now.
Mm.
And I'm like, yo, I'll let you know. Trust me, I'm not hiding anything from you, but I need to like just let it process so it comes out the right way, and all that. So it's just that thing of like, okay, I understand how this guy or how this lady operates.
But I think for me, and I mentioned it earlier, for me, what I want to get out of this, and I'm glad, I'm 100% happy that I listened to what the women said last week. What I just want to get out of is that the conclusion will be that we're different, but with our differences, let's learn to be one. Let's learn to just be one. Respect the differences, but let the differences not divide us. Let the differences keep us together. And as we grow from year to year, we begin to learn about ourselves, how to manage the differences. But I think the key thing is that we remain one.
Yeah.
So Ade has closed the meeting. Let us pray.
Yeah. Okay. Ladies, once we're on, please, if you've got questions, just pop them in the chat box. Now, last week, one of the things I think was Yamo that said that she thinks the problem is not necessarily communication, but connection. I think you all watched it. So do you agree that it's not communication or it's a bit of both?
When she says connection, I mean, a bit of context. Connection, how? What kind of connection?
I can't remember. Yamo, can you unmute and explain yourself? I can't remember what she said exactly now.
Is this the one where she was talking about men are from Mars and women are from Venus sort of thing?
Okay, she's unmuted. Yamo, yes, tell us. Can you remember?
Good afternoon. Yes, thank you so much, guys. You're doing amazing and we're cheering you on.
Thank you.
What I said was connectedness, right? Because there's nonverbal communication. You can be in a party, for example, with your spouse and not necessarily speak to them, but know it's time to actually exit the party. So it's connectedness, and that comes in different ways, not necessarily speaking. Hence, we say you should be able to know when we are upset. Connectedness.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So you guys, do you agree that it's a mixture of both, or just what do you think? What's your take on that?
I definitely think it's a mixture, and I've seen a few comments. Communications will create connection, and vice versa. To be honest, but if I kind of turn it on its head, so I was talking to my son 2 days ago, interestingly, and I just called him and said, most of you know he got married just a few months ago. So I just said, "Oh, how's marriage going?" And he said, "Oh, great, da 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 da." and stuff. And I can't remember how we got into this, as in, so I said, we're 33 years down the line. What's the one thing that I would have done different if I was in my son's shoes? And the response was that the challenge I think a lot of us have had is going into marriage with expectations and then having, in many instances, those expectations unmet or disappointed. And when we don't respond appropriately, it starts to spiral in a different thing. And we're now playing catch up in terms of trying to unravel those expectations as compared to. So I was saying to him that, look, go into marriage with the mindset of you're going into school. You're just learning from the beginning, learning to understand the person, learning and vice versa. And I say that to say that I think this whole concept of communication and connectedness is driven from the place of I want to understand you and I want you to understand me.
Yeah.
If we have that mindset, then communication becomes, well, I would like to think it becomes it becomes easier
Yeah.
because I need you to understand me. So I'm communicating. You need me to understand you. So you're communicating. In the process, there's the connectedness. I don't know if this makes sense. But I think it's that the whole mindset of let's not try and first of all make the other person like yourself. You want to understand them, their idiosyncrasies, and vice versa. And that is what fuels the communication and the connectedness.
That's so true.
I,
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
totally agree with what Doc said.
Yeah.
In fact, this morning I wrote this down. I said, unfair expectations, intentionally getting to know her, and don't walk in her shadow. One thing that hit me about walking in a shadow is that if you're walking in someone's shadow, you're walking in the shape of that person, the one-dimensional person. But when you get to know, so you don't know someone by looking at the person's shadow. You know the person by actually talking to the person, by getting to know the person, by reacting, creating, events with the person and all that. So like what Doc just said, that's unfair expectations. That's also very important because like, you have all these pictures, I mean, I've spoken to some guys who are getting ready to get married and they've got, these massive pictures they go in their head. You don't want to burst any bubbles and all that, but you're in that place where you're also asking. I mean, one thing that we didn't do, maybe that we didn't do back in the day was like, you've got expectations, and have you sat in a place where you sit down together and say, what are your expectations? And and so it's almost like you're throwing those expectations around, even if you disagree. I look at it that so many times the place to disagree is when you're courting anyway.
Yeah.
So even if you disagree, that person knows that there's that expectation that this person has.
Yeah.
I might not like it, but it's there, and I know. You understand? So all those things are, and I think so many times, I think, when it comes to communication, because I don't know, I mean, when I'd known DBC for 10 years before getting married to, well, 10 years and before actually getting married to them, we were good friends even before all that. And even after all that, you still realize that when you get married, there are these parts where it's like, oh, I thought I knew that, but there's still some more.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So I think it's so even with communication, with being connected, it's just it's a non-stop thing.
Yeah.
You can't say I've arrived. It's something that you're on a daily getting to know and all that. So yeah, that's
yeah. I wrote something down here as well this morning. I was just thinking about it, about just piggybacking what Doc said about when we go into marriages. There's so many expectations, but we need to remember that even going into the marriage, not just expectations, we're bringing whatever you call we're coming from different
backgrounds. Yeah.
We're coming from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And I know I did it once or twice and I regretted saying it. Where I wrote down here, understand our backgrounds, and regardless of whether they're negative or positive, don't ridicule it. So I'm from a background where divorce was rampant in my family. And I wouldn't be happy if in an argument my wife uses it against me. Funala has never used it against me. I know Funala's background, and I know once or twice, or even up to 3 times, I know her background, and I've used it in annoyance. I've used it against her. But in reality, that shouldn't be the case, because the whole point of coming getting married to someone is understanding the background and how can we work together to make the background not hinder us from becoming one. So I think it's very, very
I was
critical.
looking at her. How did she make Doc when she sent me the link?
I've muted the person.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think for me, understanding the background and trying to appreciate our backgrounds, regardless of how negative it may be, not to ridicule it. So I think that's important as well.
Yeah.
And just to add very quickly, because Datola just posted a comment that no matter how much you think you know each other, you can never know all of each other.
Absolutely.
I think that's really the point. And what one is advocating, again, this is with hindsight, is that I think relationships are better off if there's that inquisitiveness of I want to learn, I want to know, as compared to. And by the way, for those who are married and those who've been married for a long time, I'm sure everybody appreciates the fact now that what you knew before you got married is going to be totally different from what you start to learn when you get married. It's just completely different. We all know that.
Yeah.
But like Datola is saying, it's a continuum of learning. And what I'm saying and advocating is that coming into marriage with the inquisitiveness of I want to learn this other person rather than having a straight-jacketed, narrow viewpoint of expectations.
Sure. Fola Shade. There was a question I saw now.
Mr. Funke, there was something last week that the women spoke about, and you said that you were going to ask all of us about. Yamo Adetola mentioned this whole issue about men being providers.
Yes.
Because it was a key, they spoke about it quite a lot, and you said you were going to bring.
I think I started off by saying that some men feel that once they provide, as in money and all of that, then what else does the woman want? That was the question. And I think I said that women want men who are trustworthy, reliable, where your yes is yes, and your no is no. If you say you're going to do something, then do it. And we don't have to remind you over and over again. But basically, it's not just, I think the question was, it's not just about providing, it's about other things. Yep.
Yeah.
So, and then Mr. Dideji, who was on, said that men provide on other levels. It's just that we don't necessarily say it. And I said I was going to ask the men. Yes, I think I remember and I wrote it down. I said, so please tell us, how do you provide on different levels that we don't say?
I mean, because I was really pondering over that thing because, again, like I said, I have the privilege to speak to other men, within church, and they share their various struggles. And then during mandates, when we have breakout sessions, men are more open. And I think I focused on this word provider. I totally agree with Yamo that, yeah, we're meant to be providers. But then this whole issue around what are we providing? Are we supposed to provide all your needs or all your wants? Because one of the guys is going through quite a lot right now because the pressure of what he has to provide in his family is really, really, weighing down on his head. And then there was something else that Yamo said. I don't know what book. I never saw this in the Bible, but I'll say jokingly that the woman's money is hers, the man's money is hers. That's not in any book. I think what God has joined together, all finances should be, you understand. But let me move on. So there's needs and wants. And I think for me, how I got over this was simple because I used to struggle with this thing in the past about what our needs are, what I want, and how to respond. And God said to me, do I ask him for things? I said, yes. He says, does he always give me things? I said, no. You give me, sometimes you grant my wish, you grant my request, sometimes you don't. And he told me the issue that you're having is that, yes, your wife is always going to ask you for things. Yes, you're the husband. She's going to expect you to provide. But the wisdom is knowing whether it's a need and so on. Because what are the basic needs? I mean, you have to provide a roof over the head. You have to, provide food. You have to provide those things. Then you have the wants.
Mm.
So in my opinion, as long as the man is providing those needs, are you going to say he's not a provider? Because if you look at needs and wants, you can have godly needs as well and ungodly needs. You can have godly wants and ungodly wants. So my question is that, what is a provider? Because if a man is providing the basic needs, is that enough? Surely that should be enough. And any excess that he has, then we can deal with wants. Now you find that situations like the person that I'm talking about, he provides all the basic needs. But where the issue is the wants. And that's what's putting pressure in his relationship. So
Okay,
I don't know.
So are you sorry, Ade, before you go on, though.
Yeah.
So are you saying that once the man provides the basic needs, that's okay?
Now I'm saying it's okay. In my opinion, yeah.
Okay, that's your
Because
opinion.
it may not be able to afford the wants, is my point. Some
Okay.
kind of
No,
that's what I'm saying.
okay.
I have a slightly different take.
Okay, give us your take.
I mean, first of all, I think we owe an apology to a lot of wives and women folk because, again, this was mentioned last week when Detola, Uju, and Yama were speaking. Because the truth is that quite a number of men come into marriage with wrong stereotypes, either influenced by the culture, bad examples, and stuff like that. And I saw somebody write something about some men are cold-hearted and what you could say. First of all, apologies when a man comes into a marriage with the wrong notion of what a man is supposed to be. And I think that some marriages suffer from that. We can't run away from. So if you come into marriage with the mindset that all you have to do as a man is provide money, I don't think that's correct. I
No.
think that's just from, the in some many instances the kind of culture that we come from. As Christians, we have the template to look through and the example to look through. So for me, the concept of provision is not just financial. Finances play a big role because we live in a society where you need money to acquire things. And I think that's where the unhealthy focus on finances are. But I think the whole concept of being a provider is more than that. And the scripture that comes to mind, Ade, you'll remember we use this a lot when we
Yeah,
do mentoring, is that scripture in Genesis is the beginning. Is
yeah,
where the Bible says God put man in the garden and said, tend the garden.
yeah,
I often share with the men that that was the scripture that Miles Monroe used in 2000, the first year of mandate. That wife changed my mind completely in terms of marriage. It actually helped me a lot. And what he said is that what God was saying is be responsible for creating the right environment for your wife and your family.
Mm,
And that's provision.
mm,
So it's a responsibility, it's an overarching responsibility where you're creating an environment for your family to flourish, for your wife to grow, for your children to do well. And there are many components to it. Money is just one of those
yeah.
components. So
Yeah.
for example, I I might be earning less than my wife, but I can still be provider in
Yeah.
the sense that I just help to create an environment where, yes, she's bringing money, I'm not bringing as much money, but we are creating, or rather, through a sense of responsibility, one is creating a good environment. So I think we must, as men, just debunk that whole thing about once you bring money, that's it. There's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
And like Ade said, even if you don't have the money, you can create a very, very conducive, responsible environment in your home that just helps to build the family. I don't know if this makes sense.
it makes sense. I think Doc, you've just basically summarized what I was trying to get at. That word you used, the suitable environment for the family and for your wife to live in. Once you're providing that, because Sister Funke, you were asking me, is that enough? And I think Doc has answered that. So I wasn't just I just extracted one aspect of the provision, which is the finance aspect, and broke that down. But
Okay.
generally, you cannot just use finance alone. There are other stuff. I think some people on the call put emotional support, emotional provision, and other areas, a
Yeah.
listening ear. And I think Doc has summed it up with that particular scripture at the beginning. A
Yeah.
suitable environment for the wife to thrive in.
And I think honestly, as I think if I speak for most of the women, I think that's what we're looking for, the right environment to flourish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
And
what most women are looking for.
yeah, can I pop this into?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
totally agree with all that. And then I also think that I think one thing that just hit me a while back was that your wife just wants to be wanted and needed. She wants to feel that, you know, I'm not I'm important in this whole scheme of things. It's not as if they can do without me. So I think that that's also very important because I've noticed that in our household, I mean, if WC feels that she's in a place where she's wanted, she's needed, and all that, which she definitely is. Not even, you know, it's everything flows. So I don't know. It's hardly ever a money issue, like Doc and Ojo said. It's almost like the provision, what the depths of provision are almost like I want to feel that you need me. I want to feel that you want me in your life. I haven't you didn't just marry me to be a spare part. Do you understand? I'm here for a reason, and then obviously what Doc has said, the flourishing and all that stuff, all those things. I mean, my joy so many times is, watching the heights that WC is reaching and being there, pushing her into those heights. For me, I mean, I know God's sorting me out on different levels, but I'm just that for me is just that for me brings so much joy, and you know, it makes me feel like I'm doing what I'm meant to do. So yeah.
And I think just to conclude, I think and the reason why that flourishing environment concept that Doc spoke about is very important is he mentioned that Tubo and Fisayo, please tell me I got her name correct.
Fire.
Bio, yeah. The exposure to how a marriage should be for our children is what they see in us. So when they see the way I behave towards Funola behaves towards me, that is the first concept that they have.
Yep.
I mean, they can go to all the sermons and everything, but ideally, it's what they see every day. That is their first exposure to how a marriage should be.
And just to, and I know we've spent a bit of time on this, but just to add another word to the whole concept of provision that takes it away from the money focus. One of the things that I feel that women want from a husband as a provider is also a sense of security. Just knowing that you are safe, you're looking after, which incidentally I said at the beginning is part of the onerous responsibility because I think as a man, I feel the weight of that responsibility that I need to look after and just make my wife and my children feel secure. The security is not just in money, it's in many other things, is the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you,
That's
gentlemen.
why I thought, Sister Funke, I mentioned that one earlier about not transmitting fear, but faith.
Okay. Okay.
Faith that, I've got your back, regardless.
Yeah, I think most women, and I think for men, they want to feel that you've got their back. Their wife has their back. The women want to feel that the men have their backs too. Okay. One question from Dane Relay. Should a married man have a best friend other than their wives?
Best friend as in same sex or opposite sex?
Opposite sex.
No. I'm talking about gender.
So, as in you, as Ade, should your
Yeah.
best friend be a woman that is not your wife?
Personally, I wouldn't.
Okay.
Personally, I wouldn't. And it's a case of you don't want to, like you guys.
She's now said any gender. Okay, sorry, she said any gender. So should you have a best friend that? Are you saying the best friend can be a man? Yeah, I don't think that's well. Anyway, go on.
I mean, what's she saying? No, okay. I think Sister Adeola said no. I think she should ask the question.
Okay, decide to re-ask the question because I thought you meant that can the man, and I guess it could be vice versa, have a best friend that is of the opposite sex?
Okay,
Yeah.
I think I'll just unmute and ask.
Mhm.
Should
Oh,
really any whether a man, but today we are talking about men, so that's why I said man.
okay.
Okay.
Should any husband
Yeah.
have a best friend, be it a man or a woman, that is not their
Oh,
wife? That's what I'm asking.
Oh, okay.
oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Can
Yeah,
I
go on, go on.
attempt at answering?
Yeah.
And I think it's a very good question for many reasons. But the way I'd answer it is this. So before you get into marriage, we would have all had friends, one or two that we might call best friends. And those relationships are very necessary. I think we should all nurture those close relationships, the people we call best friends.
Yeah.
But I suspect where the question is coming from, which I kind of agree, is that once we get into marriage, the focus, the thrust should be wanting to make your spouse your best friend,
Yeah.
in many respects. So if that's the effort, then generally the answer is that ideally at some point, because it's not going to happen automatically, some of your best friends before you've been in relationships with them. But I think what I'm hearing from the question is that when you get into a marriage, the thrust and focus should be your spouse becoming your best friend. And the connotation to that is that your best friend is the person that you speak to more often. Your best friend is your number one go to. Your best friend is the person, as compared to where you're married, you have a wife, but when there are issues, you'd rather go to another best friend, whether it's a man or woman, first. I think the thrust should be we're striving to make our wife or our husband. Um, Bam, you're unmuted. Yeah, where we're striving to make our wives or husbands our best friends. So I think generally the answer is not should or should not. I think it's more that let that be the priority in our relationships. And if we do so, not only does it benefit our relationship, but it also removes some of the challenges that some of us might face. I don't know if again that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. I
Yeah.
think, do you have a different
Different, maybe not totally, no. But yeah, like Doc rightly said, I mean, when before you get married, you're in that place where, well, for me, I wouldn't say I had the best friend. I just had friends that I could speak to on different levels. So if it was in this area, I could speak to this person. If it was in this area, I'll speak to that person and all that. Now, the good thing is that what if it's not listening? But the good thing is that I found in Debussy someone who I could share almost everything with freely. Someone who I could be myself with. So the good thing is that I actually ended up marrying my best friend. So I don't think I can answer that question in that sense. But I think your best friend is someone who you can be your friend yourself with, be to say anything to, and know that the person's not going to crucify you, belittle you, and all that stuff. Uh, sorry?
no, go on. Someone
Uh,
I want
Yeah, yeah. So, like Doc rightly said, ultimately you're looking to make your husband or your wife your best friend, that person who you feel totally safe with. It's almost like you'd almost say the physical evidence of God on earth, to you. That in this person I feel secure. In this person I can be me. Even when I'm doing on the wrong, in the wrong, I can be myself with this person, and this person will still back me up. Chastise me, yes, but I know that she's chastising me in love to get me on the right path. So I think so ultimately, yeah, you want to be your best friend ultimately should be your husband or your wife, but it's the process of getting there. That's always
the issue.
the issue.
Okay.
And please, if you don't mind, just to comment, because somebody said your spouse can't always meet all your emotional needs. I don't think the concept of being best friends means that your best friend will be able to meet all of your emotional needs. I think it's just the concept of the extent of closeness and the person that is your first go-to. And then when they really said, suppose it might be difficult because your best friend is the opposite sex. Again, I definitely am not knocking the issue of gender at all. I think your close friends best friends in bracket can be a man or woman. You can have very, very safe, meaningful relationships with the other sex, where particularly you've known them for years and they're close to you, they're close to your family. What I'm saying is that in the context of the definition of best friend, the person that should be top on the list is your spouse, and we're working towards that. And then you have other close friends, as in secondary best friends, that we can't jettison those relationships. We must nurture those relationships. But in terms of priority, your spouse is the number one.
Sister Funke, I spoke about this earlier, that and I think the key word that docs use is go-to. My go-to person, number one, should always be my wife.
Yeah.
And that shows my respect for her. If my go-to person is number one, I go to either a guy or even a woman, then in my definition, I'm not showing my wife respect and vice versa. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
A gentleman said that your partner or wife needs to enable that kind of relationship.
True.
That's
something that you build along.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are even some instances where it's almost like, oh, this thing's on my mind. I mean, I'm talking to my wife. This thing's on my mind. I'm gonna run it by. So it's almost like you're in the know
Yeah.
that this thing is about to happen. I'm letting you know that this thing that's on my mind, this thing I just spoke to you about, I want to run it by. And the reason why I'm running it by this other friend of mine is because I value what that person brings into it. So the thing about it is that she knows that it's about to happen, and she's secure in that knowing.
Yeah.
You understand? It's not hidden from her.
Yeah.
You understand? So
Yeah,
And
I think it relates back to what Yama Adetola was talking about, connection and communication. It's not something that happens instantaneously. It's something that as you grow in the relationship, of course, the end game should always be that your wife or your husband should be the number one go-to. But as we know, we live in the real world. That's not always the case in all marriages.
Yeah, and like Uju said, there's some things that only girls can get. I don't know if it's the same thing with men.
Yeah, so sorry, Funke. I was just about to say to both Uju and Sumba that I think we're not saying not to have other close friends, and different relationships will meet different needs. That's the truth. That's why I said we must nurture all those relationships. We don't jettison them. But it's just in the concept, that whole concept of best friend. When you say somebody's your best friend, it connotes or suggests that this is the person that you, let me use the word, relate to more frequently the most. It doesn't take away from the other relationships. And in some cases, there's some things that you want to say in those relationships that you may not necessarily say in your best friend relationship, but it's just understanding the priority of relationships is my point.
They said something. I think it was Dan Relay that said it may be difficult if best friend is the opposite sex. Then Datola said the best friend should become friends. I mean, I personally don't like instances where let's say you'll be friends with my husband and I'm married to him now. You're like, he's my besto, and you don't make an effort to be friends with me, I will freeze you out of this house. So I think, and it works both ways. So the man should make an effort
Yeah,
if
true.
he has a besto, and the woman too should make an effort if she has a besto.
They said they need to move out of the way.
it's me now, no one else.
Well, the truth is that if you are really a good friend,
Yeah,
you should recognize the change of priorities when your
yeah,
former best friend gets married, if you are a good friend,
yeah.
and you should make way for that relationship to be nurtured.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Gosh, what are we going to end this? Ladies and gentlemen, maybe we'll go for another 20 minutes or so. But next week, don't forget, we're back on Zoom with both female barristers and guest male barristers. Okay, question. Why do men hold on to their egos to the detriment of the family unit when it's so very obvious in some instances that they're protecting their pride against the welfare of their family?
Is it possible to embellish a bit?
I know the person is on. If you want to unmute to ask that question, to embellish it. I know she's on.
Yes, Pastor. Hi,
Great.
it's
Hi.
me. Thank you. It's Toying.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for the amazing afternoon. I have really, really learned so much this afternoon. So much. So thank you, everyone. And guys, yes, you're doing absolutely brilliantly. So this question came from me. And if you can just permit me to use an example. The outgoing Nigerian president, the former president, just before this current president, his ego was bruised when Twitter censored him. He made a comment and then Twitter censored him. I think it was Twitter. They censored him, and he immediately banned Twitter in Nigeria. Now, the statistics tell us that businesses in Nigeria lost close to $2 billion in that season that he banned Twitter. Now, I asked myself in that situation, as I was reading all the information around it, I asked myself that, yes, it was wrong for Twitter to censor him. He argued that, okay, yes, absolutely, they didn't do the same to other presidents in other, if you like, developed countries. So we get that piece. But here is somebody who made a decision for people he was leading, purely from my perspective, an ego issue. And here are the people he's leading losing money per day until, the whole country and small businesses who ran their businesses primarily on Twitter lost close to a total of $2 billion. So I asked myself that question. Why would somebody who is supposed to be leading be making a decision purely from an ego perspective when actually the people who you are leading are going to be the one who suffer? So that's my question. I mean, that's just one example. There are many where, if we bring it down to a micro level where you're leading a family and you're making a decision, it's so obvious that this is an ego decision. It's based purely on ego and nothing else. So I don't know if you could help shed some light on that question.
This is for Doc.
Thank you.
This is loaded. It's for Doc.
Thank you, Toy. As you were speaking, I was reflecting and smiling. First of all, I think this has a lot to do with maturity. And unfortunately, we're all works in progress in that journey of maturity, where ego can be, because the question basically is, this is the right thing that will benefit your family as a husband, for example, but then you choose to go in a different direction because of ego. It's principally a maturity thing, because it takes a lot of maturity to get to a point where something hurts your ego, but you're able to identify that, or you're able to say, you know what, I'm going to put my ego aside and then make the best decision. But just to take a step backwards to what we said a while back, I think in the course of the conversations, it's very important that we understand the way that we're wired as men and women, and we all said it. Respect means a lot to men. It's just the way that men are wired. And I don't think it's unbiblical. I think it's biblical. Because somebody had mentioned and said, when we're talking about respect, that is it ego? I think respect and ego are not necessarily the same things. Ego is when you're thinking, you're overly thinking about yourself. That's why it's called pride, versus the need for respect. So the starting point is that understanding that the men in your lives, they want to be respected, they want to be appreciated, they don't want to be disparaged and put down and all that. Now, on top of that is where if, like I mentioned about maturity. So every single man wants to be respected, yeah. If I find myself in a situation where I feel that I'm being disrespected, that's where maturity comes in, where I'm able to say, you know what, I don't like the situation, I don't like the way I'm being spoken to, I don't like what's being said and all that, but I'm able to put that down for the benefit of a decision that will benefit my family. I don't know if this makes sense. I think it's that, first of all, recognizing that men just, it's just a man thing. You just want to be respected and not disdained and all that. And if somebody is disrespecting their husband, it takes maturity for the husband to be able to put that disrespect aside and still continue to make a decision that is beneficial to the family. I don't know if that answers the question.
Can I add to that from
Yeah.
personal experience? Maybe I never thought that I had an ego or pride issue until the Lord dealt with me for over 18 months. I know Marenika and Bumi, if they're on the call, they know about that, where one statement of pride and ego basically put me through 18 months of not having a job and having to provide for my family and my kids. And what was it? A friend of mine said, your contract is coming to an end. Go and start looking for another contract. And I remember with arrogance, I said, why should I? I always get a job. They just need to look at my CV and all is sorted out. I never knew that was the beginning of my journey. And Morenika and Bumi will tell you, God broke me to the extent that, I was broken. After 18 months, I realized that regardless of all the degrees, all the money, and then the final came when I read a book called The Ego is My Enemy, written by a guy called, I can't remember his name, Ego My Enemy. As I was reading that book, it was as if every single line was talking about me. But the word of God is so powerful. You won't believe it was one scripture that really, really helps me now. That really, really helps me now. And it says, but David encouraged himself in the Lord. And that scripture ministered to me that in order to deal with this ego and this pride, it's only one person that can sort this out, and that's God. So I find myself, like Doc's example, that when maybe Fulala upsets me, in the past, I would try, ego kicks in, and as men, you try all kinds of things to retaliate. But now I find it much easier because I just encourage myself in the Lord. So this ego thing and this pride thing, I thought I never had it, but I openly confess that I used to, but I'm a much better person now. Work in progress.
Thank you.
I just hope that blesses anybody out there. So
thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, I'll just say that it's definitely a work in progress. And one thing that God dropped in my heart some time back was that if you love that thing enough, you will swallow your pride.
Mm.
And the day that one hit my heart, I was like, okay. So there are a lot of things now where it's almost like, not being honest, there are things that maybe you're told and it's like, well, that's the right thing, but that needs to come from me. So you do all these roundabout things so that when it happens, you're the one that it comes from.
Yeah.
You understand? But actually, it actually originated from your wife. Yeah. So a lot of this, but ultimately, it's like the reason why all that's happening is because I'm speaking specifically about family.
Yeah.
That if you love these guys enough, all that pride and all that ego stuff, you're going to bury it to ensure that. Yeah. So that's it.
Yeah. Did you want
Please,
to?
I know you need to move on, but can I just distinguish between where a person is just fueling their egos and fueling their pride by themselves and just going off on a tangent versus because if I understand the question correctly, is where somebody does something that riles you, rattles your ego, and then causes you to react in a detrimental way. And I think they're two completely different things. So there's where you yourself, you're finding your own ego and you know you're being prideful, which is wrong anyway, versus when somebody does something, which is why I brought in the whole issue of respect. Because Tony's example was because somebody, Twitter did something and it offended or riled the person's ego and then made a detrimental decision. I think they're two completely different things. And why I chose to answer the way that I did was just saying that let's understand ourselves, let's understand each other as husbands and wives. And it boils down to this whole thing about I choose to use the word respect instead of ego. That if we are mindful of one and we appreciate each other, we're not disrespectful, then you don't put your husband in a situation where he's now making a decision that is detrimental to the family. And if you don't, it takes a great deal. What Akin said just now about if you love your family, it again, that's a function of maturity. It's not everybody that will think like that from the beginning. You grow into it. Again, I don't know if this makes sense.
It
Yeah,
does.
it does. It does. Okay, two more questions. Now, I know I don't think you guys are like that, but this question came. What did you want to say something?
No, no, I didn't say anything.
Okay. Yeah, this question, I don't think you guys are like that, but let me read the question out. Why do men sometimes lie to their wives, even when the wife is always telling them the truth, or advising them or protecting them from falling into a trap?
Can you repeat that, please?
Why do some men sometimes lie to their wives, even when the wife is always telling them the truth or advising them or protecting them from falling into a trap?
That kind of linked to the pride
Yeah, I
ego
think it's
thing.
linked to, yeah.
Yeah, because it's
I guess
almost
it's,
like you don't want to be told. It's like, why are you telling me that?
Is it
No,
the
no,
old,
no.
is it the old driving scenario where
You're meant to go left, honey. No,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no. It's right. It's right.
So again, I think that, I mean, except I'm mistaken, but I think there are two different things because the question was, why do men lie?
Mm.
That's a correct.
yeah. So it was, why do men sometimes lie to their wives, even when the wife is always telling them the truth, right? So I think that's one question. And I think the other thing, person wrote, advising them or protecting them from falling into a trap.
It's the ego thing again, I guess.
That one is, yeah, that's more an ego thing.
So we if we start with the part B, um,
Mm.
so my wife knows that we have this thing in my family. I think from speaking to men, it happens in most families, and it's always around driving, where yeah. Actually, maybe I should ask the women on the call the question, why do you women feel that you need to tell us when to turn left and when to turn right and put on? I just don't get it.
Excuse me, let me defend speaking on behalf of some of the women here.
Okay,
So
I'm listening. All
you're
is.
at the roundabout. Now, those who know this, you're at the roundabout, right?
Here we go.
When, let's say it's third exit, right? When do you start to signal to show that you're going, it's a third exit that you're going? When do you start to signal? My
Mm, but,
dear,
but,
my
but,
dear,
Sister Funke, can I just interject? Sorry.
yes,
Yeah, I think the upsetting thing for me is that the instruction you're giving now,
yes.
when you're the one driving, you're going to do the same thing that you're
No,
telling
we,
us.
because we
Yeah.
drive very well. I drive very well. I follow the.
When you cover your face, like you know it's true.
So, uh, so I think, ladies, this is your dear husband speaking to
So it'd be
you.
dear
Dear
wives,
wife.
yes, they dear wives.
Okay, dear wives, these are your loving husbands speaking to you with plenty of love.
Yes.
We know how to drive, please. you don't have to tell us when to put on
Friends,
the
yeah.
indicator and all. It just okay, to be fair, I know that women are wired to help and all that, but it just seems a bit I don't know what the right word is. It just seems if you waited 1 second longer,
Good.
I would have put on the
Definitely.
transmitter indicator. But
But
you said it
Bridget,
1 second too
Bridget,
early when I'm about to do this. It's just like, why are you telling me what I know I'm going to do? So can you please just be a little bit more patient?
Okay, we
Or
will practice that. And
or you can do like I said to my wife that maybe she should be sitting in the back seat when we're driving so that you don't tell me what I'm
because you suffocate, you do your makeup, and I say, "Oh, you've missed that bit here." You're gonna look at me with evil eyes.
no, but that's
exactly.
different. That's
No,
different
it's
because
not.
what do you know about makeup? You don't know.
Ah, says who? Says who? I'm joking. I'm joking.
So
But
Thank you,
you get what I'm
Korede.
trying to say.
Thank you, Korede, because when we keep quiet, the indicator will not come, or you're already at the exit before they now put on the indicator.
Unless someone said you don't know makeup, we don't drive it.
Exactly. You don't do anything.
The main thing is ultimately we get you to the destination.
Yes.
Whether we miss the exits, we come back. That's why it's a roundabout. You can go around, 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 and then indicate, oh yeah, it's that way.
I think Waze came to the answer in our house because my wife will just put on Waze, so she doesn't need to tell anymore.
But on a serious note, and I'm actually concerned
Yeah.
that it's a very common phenomenon amongst women. I'm actually concerned that every woman does this because it means that there's something wrong.
Well, not necessarily with
Doc,
us. Not necessarily with
Doc,
us.
No.
wait. Doc, could it be the reason why most sat navigation system, the voice is the voice of a woman?
Or a woman, you got it.
Who knows?
And in fact, you know what? When I'm driving and the sat nav goes, welcome home, I actually say thank you. So, but I think it's maybe also in a sense maybe the way ladies are wired. I mean, we should thank God that at least we're all alive. I've heard about some ladies grabbing the steering while the husbands are driving.
Wow.
So, hey,
I don't think I've done that. Not
we're
yet.
still here.
Anyway, we thank God.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
someone said her husband
I
is a
think
better driver, so she doesn't intervene. Okay, well done.
yeah. No, I think on a serious note, I think when one thinks about it, um, we appreciate the fact that ladies, you want to help, you want to step in. But I think for me, it's almost it's too preemptive, is my thing. As in, if you just waited a few more seconds, the thing that you're saying would happen.
Okay, let me
And
give you another example. You want to go left, you're turning into a side road, left, right? You should definitely indicate well before you get there, not when you get there, because the car behind you doesn't know that you're going to, and they may even be speeding. We're trying to protect us. Now, when you're on your own, you can do whatever. Whatever. But when
Oh, so
I'm in the
it's a selfish
That's not
motive.
nice.
Oh, there you
no,
go.
because
That's not nice.
I know it's not nice, but my heart cannot take it because I'm like, oh my God, what if the car behind us hits us? Because you don't indicate before we
Oh,
turn.
Jesus in the car now, so nothing will happen.
okay, can
Jesus
I
in the car. This is the
I'm
problem.
joking.
You criticize. There's a question that said that why does everything have to be spiritualized when you
Exactly.
okay, can I pull in a different dimension, please,
Okay.
if you don't mind? Can I pull in a slightly different
yes,
dimension?
yes.
Can the ladies please, if you're going to help in terms of direction, can you please say it in a nice, gentle,
I don't even
loving
say it. I just
way?
you
Like
don't
Waze.
put the indicator myself.
That's close
I
to the
like the
steering.
voice of the lady Waze.
That's close to the steering.
You can turn to the right.
So if wife, for
Okay, I'm
example,
learning. Sorry, this is about you, and this is how you feel. I'm so sorry. I will do better.
thank
And
you,
next week I'll come and report myself.
thank you so
Um,
much.
Thank you very
and you
much.
can
We're
also
clapping
say
for
that
you.
she's done better. So I'll definitely do better.
And by the way, please, wife, can you tell everybody that when I said, please, is it possible to just keep quiet and not say anything? When you practiced it, did we not get to where we're going?
Yeah, but you don't know what I went through. Just keeping quiet. But I'm
Give,
going to be a good wife because
give us
this
a
is,
chance.
yeah,
Give us a chance.
I will. I
We'll
will.
get
I
we'll
won't
get
say
there.
anything. This
Anyway, thanks.
week,
Thanks.
I will
Thank
be
you.
very good. Okay. Let's
Okay.
Next question.
the
Sorry,
other
sorry,
question is
Tunde,
why
before
do men sometimes lie to their wives? Why
yes, I was just about to say, but in terms of the second part of that, I think there's no excuse at all. It's totally inexcusable to lie. The whole concept of lying is deceptive, and I think it just doesn't build the right kind of relationship that you want. But to answer the question, more from interactions that one has had, because I remember speaking to a gentleman a while back, a younger gentleman, who was relating some of the interactions he'd had with his wife. And one of the things that he said is that because every time he's trying to say something, she always gets angry. If he tells her this, she always gets angry. And I think, and it's not right at all, but I think sometimes a man might find himself in a place where if you say this, it's going to engender this kind of reaction that you just find completely unpleasant. And unfortunately, it pushes them in the other direction. I'm not making excuses, but pushes them in the other direction where they find themselves lying about a situation just to ameliorate the situation.
And
Yeah,
just back up on that because I spoke to someone too recently, not too long ago, and he was like, not as if you start out wanting to lie, but that she always wants to be right.
okay.
So and so because of that, and I told the guy, I said, well, but she is right. He said, yeah, but there's just a way she tries to like push it through, and all that. And I think he's always been in that place where every time, what she said kick into pass was always that thing of throwing in his face. See, I told you now. He said, I told you. If you had listened, this wouldn't have happened. So I think maybe for him, it was that thing of like, I'd rather lie, try and sort it out somewhere else to ensure that what I have said comes to pass, which, like Doc said, is totally wrong. But I think it's almost like the position he found himself in
Right.
But this
at that
relates
point in
to
time. Yeah.
But this relates to the earlier question about why do men don't talk? Because in that situation, some men, rather than lie or say anything, they'll just keep quiet because they don't know how to respond, and they're trying to avoid conflict. I mean, I'm speaking on my behalf. I wasn't. I've said this on one of your shows that I don't know how to handle conflict because in my household there was never conflict. I mean, we were all boys, and once there's an argument, we just go our separate ways and come back in the evening. And no, but not really sorted out because my wife said something earlier in our marriage that what we were doing, we were burying everything under the carpet.
Yeah.
So when there was a conflict later on, the conflicts just grew bigger and bigger because we hadn't dealt with it. Whereas in my wife's family, they would lock themselves in the room and no one's leaving until they sort that conflict out. So in the initial years of our marriage, my wife was a better person at managing conflicts. Anytime I tried to, I just made it worse. So I just decided on some occasions I'll just keep quiet. So it depends.
Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, the final question, because there's still loads of questions, but we'll answer the rest next week. But thank you. You guys have been amazing, vulnerable. I wish we had started on Zoom earlier. Anyway, but next week,
give
I
us
think
bonus question.
Final question. If you could say one thing directly to wives, so each of you, one thing directly to wives, what will it be? So this is your closing remark to wives.
To our wives or just generally?
Generally, wives, general.
Mine is simple. The doc has spoken about it many times. Respect,
R-E-S-P.
When I spoke about the example I gave last time, I specifically spoke about the fact that, the environment is not always going to be perfect. You're not always going to have the perfect marriage. Sometimes you're going to argue, sometimes you're not going to argue. But for me, as long as there's respect in the disagreement and there's respect in agreement, I think it will do wonders. Is it easy to do? Not really, but by God's grace, God will enable all of us to be able to, for our wives to respect us, and for also us to appreciate and respect our wives as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jumps. Next.
Yeah, well, it's taking respect, so I'll just say, and this is both of us, both sides, but drop the mindsets.
Drop the mindset. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think there are some things that are just sets, which kind of set the tone for some things that end up happening along the way. So, but yeah.
Thank you very much. Dr. Adeaga?
So mine would be there's a phrase that I've started to use quite a lot and imbibe, particularly when advising younger marriages. And the phrase is the problem is not the problem is how you manage the problem. And that is to say that there will always be the reason the fact that we're having all these conversations, the one last week, the ones this week, and hopefully next week, just shows us that there will always be the disagreements, the conflicts, and all that. But I feel honestly that those things are not the issues. The issue is how we react to, how we manage those things. So what I would be saying to, I guess you,
Their wives.
to, to, to wives,
This
is
is
that
expired now.
I think what I would be saying is that let's learn to solve problems. The problems are not the issue, it's how we manage them. So, whatever the issue is, we talked about communication and connected, and whatever the issue is, let's talk about it and resolve it. If we have that mindset of resolution, then it's not a problem. There will always be issues, but let's come together, let's resolve it.
Amen.
Amen.
We're
Thank you
all
very
in
much.
this together.
Yes, we're in
Yeah.
this together.
Yeah.
One question from last week. Would you die for your wives?
Yes.
Oh,
But I'm saying
But there's a but.
There should
Let
be
me
no
tell you.
but.
No
No,
but.
there's no but. There's no but because I'm confessing now. This question came up during one of the mentoring schemes, and it was a scenario of if your wife committed an offense, and and because I didn't have an understanding of what dying for your wife meant, I said, no. But then I went away and I thought that why were people looking at me in such a bad way? Then I went to go and read about how to sacrifice yourself. And when I read it, I said, wow, I am ready to die for my wife. I now know that I understand what it means. So 100% yes.
Okay.
On my side.
Akin, have you answered?
Oh yeah. I mean, I would definitely lay down my life for Debs.
Okay, so my answer is that as at last week, I would have said yes. I would be happy to die.
See what 7 days can do.
So what has changed?
But I have to tell everybody what happened. A few days ago, it was a few days ago, we had, I think, I'm not sure whether it was on my birthday, but we had the children in the house, the adults now that are married with this. But we were just having a good time, talking, playing games, having fun, and all that. And then somehow this question came up that who would you choose? Who would you, if you're in a difficult situation, would you choose your husband, or your wife, or your children?
Children were chosen.
Okay, you did not.
And there was, thinking in my head that it's a no-brainer. In fact, the children actually said it themselves. They said they know dad would choose his wife over the children. Guess what my wife said?
The
My
children.
wife said she'll choose the children over me. So since that day, I said I'm not dying. I'm not
Yeah,
dying.
Well, you got 7 days
She
to make
was
up.
joking. She was joking.
So,
I've got 7 days to make up.
Yeah, maybe you should ask this question to the women next week.
No, I think last week we said that Christ died for his bride. So it's the men that will die for you and not vice versa.
It's all good.
It's all good. It's all good.
It's
But
all good.
thank you, gentlemen. You have been amazing, amazing. We really do appreciate you. And we're looking forward to having you back next week, Saturday, same time, 12 noon. And please, everyone that's joined us, we'll be back next week, Saturday, 12 noon. We'll be on Zoom. So it'll be the Zoom details that you'll get when the flyer goes out. But thank you.